All right. Okay. So now, okay, this one. All right. Before we talk about hmm, how how is fun fundamentally pure, but somehow because of a wrong view, so that's why we got stuck and attached to food. And so far we talk about that. Now, last time we talked about yeah, right. The Buddha say that because of the design, uh, that's make the saliva, right? Saliva is mouth water.
Mhm.
And when we feel pity or hate, we have the eye with tear, craving for wealth. That's still one part of mind. That's why saliva flow and body stick. Okay. So the next one here is so important. When the mind give rise to sexual desire, the generative fluid flow from the male and female organs, ananda, until these desires differ. Their manifestations are all characterized by the corruption of water, which by nature flow downhill instead of up. This inner affection. So we talked about this before, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh, Here we don't need to talk about the difference between the gender, but somehow the female tend to have more emotion, right? What
Yeah,
it
yeah, in general, yeah.
That's why uh, in the monastic communities, the Buddha established more rules for them, right, to control the emotion. And again, it's not easy. It's not easy to transform those type of emotion. Yeah. It's related to our sister desire here. So it's so reasonable on this part, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that does seem reasonable.
Yeah, please.
Ananda, outer affection concerns living beings externally. Their keen desires produce illusory thoughts, which by continuous pursuit become overwhelming. Thus, the mind bent on strict observance of the precepts makes the body light. The mind concentrated on incantations, mantra, and mystic gestures, mudra, gives a virile and resolute air. The mind set on rebirth in the heaven of gods brings dreams in which the practicer seems to fly upward. The mind concentrated on the Buddha land causes holy realms to appear, and real devotion to a religious counselor, Kalyana Mitra, leads to the willing sacrifice of even one's own life. Nanda, although these thoughts differ, all these manifestations are by nature characterized by a lightness of body, which soars up instead of sinking down, so that they leap over their present states. This is outer affection.
Mm, okay.
Oh, okay. This is my first time hearing of this.
Hmm.
Two categories. So in this case, for the way, outer affection is helpful, whereas inner affection is something that needs to be overcome. Um, yeah, the mind bent on strict observance of the precepts makes the body light. I mean, that's certainly, yeah, because living a life where we follow the precepts, that does clear things up. I mean, if someone is going to have, in general, kind of like a healthier body, they're not going to be overindulging in foods. I mean, not meats, definitely not meats. They're not going to be overindulging in anything, and they're going to have they're going to have peace in their mind, and then that makes when the mind is peaceful, the body follows suit too, and so it makes sense that it's light. In my experience with doing mantras, that kind of resolute and the energy. I would agree with that. Um, yeah, no, the last two, I don't know that I'm under the right circumstance, I might be able to sacrifice my own life. Um, but I think it would take that being in that circumstance to know for sure if I would or wouldn't, because that's a pretty big deal.
mm,
Um, and then the other ones, I don't have experience of either of those. The flying upwards because of the setting the mind on being reborn in the heavens, and then
mm,
the Buddha lands one either.
mm. So here about the mind being on strict observance of precept make the body light. Um, how about in the sense of the secular law? For example, while you're driving the car, right, you have to follow the law or the rules, right? So does make the mind or body become light? What do you think?
Hmm. Well, if one wasn't following the rules while driving a car, they would get in an accident. They would get hurt, and so it would cause problems for them. So yeah, it would make issues with their body. Their body would become a burden because they would have pain from the accident.
Let's say while we are driving on the freeway, is the side that we need to drive only 65, right? That's the speed limit. Now, as soon as we drive at that 65 mile per hour, we will be more comfortable, right? But if we drive, let's say 70 or 75, we feel anxious, we feel nervous because the police may stop us, right? So is my body light or heavy when we follow the speed limit? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's lighter. There's less tension in the system because the faster you go, the faster you have to be ready to respond. So you have to be more alert, more vigilant. And that tension is going to create a feeling of it's like a heavy feeling. It's definitely not a light feeling. That
How
makes sense.
about while you drive, while you flying on airplane? First, we need to abide all kind of rules, but that we're not supposed to yell, we're not supposed to say something out of the mind because there's many people surrounding us. What do you think? Is that comfortable for us, or is that we feel tight?
Well, it prevents conflict.
Mhm.
So following the rules makes things easier because if the person next to you gets upset with you, well, that's not going to make for a very good plane flight. And if you get into an argument with someone next to you, like or nearby, it's just conflict is a heavy thing. So I would say, yeah, it makes people feel better than if they didn't follow the rules. But it's also plane flight requires a lot more rules than just being in your own living room or going for a walk outside. So um, I think it like more rules can make one feel more tense than being in a situation where they don't have those rules. But if they were in the situation like the plane flight where you need the rules to keep things good and they didn't have the rules, then it would be way worse. So it's like the rules are still reducing the problems, but it's just a situation where there's already going to be a little bit more tension because you can't be as free on a plane. But if you didn't have the rules, it would be way worse. So I don't think like just the act of needing to keep rules I don't think that in and of itself is like in my experience that can create a little bit of tension, especially if they're new rules, because it can be like, oh gosh, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to. I want to try to follow these rules, but I might do the wrong thing. Um, and then my understanding is in enlightenment, right action flows without thought, and the rules were all created to align with that state of the enlightened mind. So they're not like in that state, they're not something that are kind of imposed or that one tries to bring on, but the rules are just sort of like the natural expression of the enlightened mind ends up following those rules without thinking about it.
Yeah, but in other hand, let's say in the case of a plane, an airplane, let's say it would really need to go to the restroom, but somehow because of the restriction, right? When the plane just took off, or somehow or when the plane were descending down, or in some special cases, so we cannot go to the list ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uncomfortable about that, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I say that because we have to respect other people and follow those couple of rules, so that everyone can have a peace of mind, so that can fly safe. It's understandable. But when we talk about the enlightened one, right? If we uh, follow certain type of rules, we tie ourselves down in certain way of life. Of course, uh, as human, we need to follow those type of rules, especially the Buddha established the five basic precept of for lay people and the precept for the monk and so forth. But somehow, okay, let's put this way. Remember the story of the two monks, right? Who saw a drowned lady, right? So one monk approached and rescued her and carried her from the water to the bank of a river. But the other monk, right, complained about that. So in the sense as yeah, definitely the Buddha say that we have to follow precept, because of precept we have the peace of mind that can help us to have concentration, and when we have concentration we have the wisdom. But if we follow so strict, we get stuck with that too. That's why we need to go the middle way. That's why every one of us have to uh, recognize where the middle way is about. And remember, the sixth patriarch said that when the mind is pure, we don't need to keep a precept. Make sense? But
Mm-hmm.
because for us, we have the impure mind. That's why we need to follow the precept. But for the enlightened one, when their mind are pure, no matter they do, their mind is so pure. They do with their pure intention.
Mm-hmm.
If they still abide certain kind of rules about with certain type of rule, they get stuck with that too. Um, there's a story. Let's see here. Oh, I don't know whether you know. I used to uh, remember the Zen story. There's a famous Zen master. He um, he went out and somehow he saw his disciple uh, sitting on the rock almost every day to do meditation. So guess what? The next day he went out the place where his disciple or student sitting in meditation. He uh, took a brick, a brick, right, or the rock, So somehow uh, um, he pushes against the another rock. So they have the small rock and the big boulder. So he used a small rock and he pushed against what we call that one. Uh,
Like a boulder, like or a larger rock.
Larger rock. So he used a small rock and he pushed that rock along with the big boulder, big rock. And so after meditation, the student turned around and asked, Master, what you doing? So he said that, oh, well, I pushed this rock to the big rock so that I can make the mirror out of that small rock. You understand that?
Yeah, like draw a picture.
No, no, no. He said that I push the small rock onto the big rock so that I can make a mirror out of the small rock. You understand that?
Mural, Mural.
The mirror for to see ourselves.
Oh, a mirror. Oh, okay. So he's trying to polish the rock into a mirror.
He tried to polish the rock, so the students say, "Wow, that's just a rock. How could you polish the small rock with the big rock and to make the mirror for you to see?" And so he mentioned that how could you become Buddha when you just sit there alone? You follow me?
Hmm.
Follow his analogy?
Yeah, yeah.
If someone stuck with sitting meditation alone, it's not easy to move forward spiritually. It's like we use a small rock, right? I use the big rock to polish the small rock so that we can make the mirror from that. It makes sense now? Of course,
Yeah.
way for us to polish a small rock to be a mirror. There's no way. That's the, that's the master intention to teach the student that meditation alone, sitting meditation alone could not help us to attain enlightenment because meditation involved with sitting, standing, walking, and some kind of mental or physical activity too. So my point is that if yeah, definitely we have to follow rules, precept. But if we get stuck with one, we could not move forward. You understand now, right?
Yes.
That's is in Zen tradition there. That's why somehow that's different between the Rauda and Mahayana tradition. The Rauda tradition, they really stick on the rules and the precept. I remember that when they went to Thailand and when they went to a store in Bangkok. So the rules, I don't know whether they follow. I think they still follow. So the rule is that whoever female want to give anything to the monks, they have to put either on the tray or on something else. They're not supposed to give directly hand to hand to the monk. That's the rule. Yeah, that's pretty good for the monks. And but somehow it's sometimes it's so rigid, right? But in of course in the Maha tradition it's more flexible for that, but sometimes it's not. mm, Yeah, uh, sometimes it's quite different from the Theravada tradition. Yeah. So, in your views, what do you think? Is better to follow strict rules, or it's better to be flexible uh, and stick with the principle? What do you think?
Well, it seems like there's probably a time for both, and it depends upon the individual's uh, condition. So maybe a good example would be like alcoholism.
Mhm.
So a lot of people, maybe it's not the best example, but like somebody can have one drink and then they can't stop drinking. Whereas someone else can have a drink and that's it. They don't really think about it. They don't want to do it the next night. They don't want to do it the next day. It's like they had a drink because it was appropriate given the situation they were in and they, weren't trying to get anything out of it. So maybe like there may be someone who they touch, a woman's hand touches theirs, and that becomes the cause for them to break their vows because it sort of ignites a spark and that spark grows into a fire. But that's not as established of a mind state then. That mind state is more susceptible. So if someone who's totally established in resolution, it's not going to matter if a woman, rubs their naked body over. Like it's going to be anything like like there's that story of the monk who stopped at that resting place and there was that like that woman used him basically and then he went back and talked to the Buddha and the Buddha was like, well, you didn't do anything wrong because he didn't actively pursue it. But if touching someone's hand could be a problem, well, surely that's like huge. And that monk still kept it, my understanding is he still kept his vows and um, stayed resolute. So some people may need the strictness, and then other people may be able to relax it and still uphold the spirit, the core reason for it.
Okay. Another story I like somehow when you talk, I like to share. I don't know whether you know this story or not. So there's a monk. He went to the mountain to do meditation for 13 years. And even whenever his sister brought the clothes or the cloth to him, he didn't pay attention. He can focus on meditation. So one times the king order all the monks should go to the capital to pray for his deceased mothers or the former queens, so that so that they could pray for to take um, future rebirth to the Buddha land or the heaven and so forth. So most of monks pack their package for going to the capitals. So the king, because he was a Buddhist, what happened then? He put the Diamond Sutra. He buried the Diamond Sutra down on the ground, under the ground, right at the gates of the palace. So every monk passed by, walk. I mean that passed by that place, walk over that sutra, except this monk. Somehow, when he went there, he put his hand down and he walked with his hand passing to the gate because he
Walked on his hands.
no
Oh,
on he pushed his hand down on the ground.
yeah.
So basically, he walked with his hand instead of walking his feet because
Yeah.
on the ground was the Diamond Sutra. So no monk recognized except him. And so the people report to the king. So the king say, "Okay, wow, that is the holy monk." So guess what? So he ordered the court ladies to take a shower for him to test whether he has some type of sexual desire or not. So after that, they report to the king that he didn't move his mind because of his strong mind, strong samadhi, concentration and wisdom. So when the time that for them to do the prayer for the queen, the former queen, of course, after that, the king recognized um, his holiness. So he requires him to lead the whole assembly to do the prayer for his mothers of former queens. So he said, well, Just set up a flower and a fruit. That's all enough for me to do the prayer. And the king said, "Wow, you know, for the former queens, right? Because of her power, and also she was the mothers of the king, so there's plenty of food for them to offer, right? When they do the ceremony, funeral service for her. But the monk say, that's enough. You keep put a vase of flour and a plate of fruit. That's more than enough for me to do the prayer for her. Yeah, he did. And when he did the prayer, and of course he make some verses to do that prayer. And at first, the king did not believe what he did for his former mom, mothers. But on the air, right? Somehow, even he did not see the figure, but he heard the voice of his mothers say, "Now I was born in the heaven already. Please bow down to this holy monk." And after that, he gone. And after the prayer, so the king asked the master, "So what do you want me to offer to you?" So he looked around and he saw a big pagoda, pagoda, right? In the palace, and say, I like to have that one. The real one, not the miniature one. So the king say, okay, go ahead, you can take it. So somehow he flew up there and he took that pagoda and put inside his pocket and flew away. That's one of the story. The point I want to say is that yes, definitely for the land one, the holy one that mm, uh, their mind is so pure, right? There's no need for them to think anything about peace. Even the lady courts took a shower for him. Uh, his mind did not move. That's why the Sid pages say, it, "Our mind is pure. There's no way. We don't need to keep precept, but because our minds are impure, we need to follow precept." So in that case, uh, if even if we have the thought of keeping precept, it will interrupt or obstruct our wisdom. But for us, definitely for the underland one, right? For human, uh, common people, us, we need to follow rules until we attain to that level of mind.
Hmm.
Do you follow that story, right? You never read that type of story before, right?
Hmm. I haven't come across that one.
Um, of course, for you to understand that, but if I talk to other people, I mean, that non-Buddhist people, they not believe that. How could the monk uh, uh, take a shower with the lady, right? The lady in the palace without moving the mind, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
There's no way. Not talking about all the things that's he used second power to fly up to the air or to pick up the pagoda and pick and poop inside his pocket. That's not a story, right? That's we will talk about when someone become arhat, when someone attain enlightenment, they have that kind of second power. Forget about that. But I'm talking about emotion, right?
Mhm.
Emotion. Uh, if we don't have this certain type of meditation, concentration, um, yeah, there's no way for us to control our desire, especially right, when other opposite sex that help us to take a shower, right?
Mhm.
Not easy. Anyway, so yeah, that's why I love Zen story. There's a lot of Zen story. Somehow, when I was young, I love to hear those type of story, and even now, so many years, I don't have time to read, but those type of stories still occur in my mind.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Okay. Okay, so let's just stop here today then. Okay, so So you think you can make it on the 24th for lunch?
I'll definitely be there the 25th, and I might be there the 24th.
Okay.
So we'll
Yeah,
see. It's possible.
sure. Okay, so see you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty.
So thank you. So if let's say let's see. Yeah, next Wednesday I won't be able to see you because I'm flying back to Louisville, Kentucky. So we may skip that then.
Okay.
We see you on next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, the 25th then.
Okay, perfect.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.